Up next, we have Mr. Chen Kit Jam to share more about the MPA Flag State Responsibility and PSC Safety Performance Scorecard. Now, Mr. Chen joined MPA in the year 2000 as a marine surveyor in the shipping division. Now, a former marine engineer with a master's in offshore engineering from NTU, he rose to head of port state control and subsequently as well, head of flag state control in the year 2017. Now, just recently in this year, 2021, Mr. Chen was redesignated as the Deputy Director in the Shipping Division and also currently oversees the portfolio of flag state control, port state control, and ship regulatory development. Ladies and gentlemen, for the next presentation on stage, and don't forget, this is also the last time that you get to submit all of your questions coming in. So along the way, if you hear anything that was relevant to you and you'd like to ask a question, straight away, on the spot, send in your questions via Pigeonhole for the last presentation today. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome on stage right now, Mr. Chen Kit Jam. Thank you. Very warm welcome. Over to you. Have a great time.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests and colleagues. It is my pleasure to be here today to present the Safety Performance Scorecard for the Singapore Registry of Ships and to share some of the work we do as a responsible flag administration. Let us first have a look at how the Singapore flag has fared in terms of port state control performance in 2021. According to annual reports published by the relevant port state control regimes, the Singapore flag continues to perform well in the major port state control regimes such as the Paris Memorandum of Understanding, the Tokyo Memorandum of Understanding, and the US Coast Guards. Our detention ratio for the Paris MOU, as shown in the chart, remains low at 1.68% compared to the regional average of 3.34%, which is half the value. This is an indication that our Singapore ships are generally performing better, with 50% lower detention than other ships operating regionally in the European ports. However, there may be some concerns for our ships trading to certain parts of Europe, which our ship owners and managers should be mindful of. I will share them in my later slides. Looking at the Tokyo MOU, which is the port state control regime for the Asia-Pacific region, we have also maintained a low detention ratio of 0.75% in contrast to the regional average of 2.64%. This is an indication that our ships are generally performing better with about 75% lower detention than other ships operating regionally in the Asia-Pacific region. In terms of ranking amongst other flag registries published in the Tokyo MOU report, we have also consistently maintained our ranking within the top 5 performing flags under the Tokyo PSC regimes for the last 4 years. Moving on to the US Coast Guard port state control regime, our 3-year rolling average remains below 1%, standing currently at about 0.73%. The US Coast Guard has implemented a prestigious Ship 21 program, which aims to eliminate substandard shipping by providing incentives to high-quality ships, which, however, needs to be registered with an eligible flag, for example, Singapore, to encourage quality operations. As the qualifying criteria for a flag is kept at less than 1% detention, calculated over a 3-year rolling average, and not based on a single year performance, the entry level is set very high by the US Coast Guard for flags to demonstrate consistent performance for a minimum of 3 years. The good news is the Singapore flag's steadfast commitment to quality and safety has been recognized by the United States Coast Guard through its Warship 21 program. We have received notification that the Singapore flag has again qualified for the USCG Warship 21 status for the 5th year running, beginning from 1st July 2021. So in achieving the flag qualification, this also paves the way for all eligible Singapore flagships trading to the United States for enrollment under the USCG Warship 21 program. As most of us are aware, qualifying ships under the USCG Warship 21 program are rewarded with incentives such as having their ship's name posted on the USCG website and e-courses, being subjected to reduced scope of annual PSC examinations, and oversight, an issue with a Warship 21 certificates. This slide shows the numbers and the distribution of ships detained under the various PSC regimes, such as Paris MOU, Tokyo MOU, USCG, and others. As of August 2021, this year, a total of 19 detentions were recorded. Looking carefully at the spread and distribution of detentions, 5 detentions have been recorded by Canada, which contributed to about 26% of the total 19 detentions globally. This is an area of concern, which we notice a rising trend, mainly due to MLC issues, and also in Belgium on similar issues. We will touch more on that later. In comparison to other years, we also noted that there is a reduction of total detentions, 19, so far in 2021, as compared to previous years of approximately 40. This indicated a decrease of about 50%, and I would like to thank all our ship owners and operators for the great effort in maintaining a quality flag, which ensures strong performance and collectively boosts the Singapore Registry of Ships standing. I would also like to share with all present on how we deal with detentions. In brief, our approach is to proactively review each detention so as to determine the justifications for detention and, where applicable, work with the company to engage and appeal to the port state on any unjustified detentions. However, I would like to remind that before an appeal can be successful, we have to ensure that the appeal can be submitted in time, as there's usually a specific timeline or time frame for the port state to accept any appeals. For appeals submitted beyond the stipulated time frame, any appeals will not be entertained by the Port State Control Authority. Depending on the Port State Authority which detained the ship, this typically varies from 2 weeks to 90 days. So most companies, in our experience, are either not aware of the time limitations imposed or took too long to inform the flag about the detention, which affected the appeal process. It is therefore very important, in our opinion, that the company should immediately inform the Singapore flag on any port state control detentions. Verify the details of the detention with the ship, determine the validity of the detainable deficiencies, and contact us as soon as possible if the detention is deemed as unjustified, and seek the flag's advice and intervention. To date, we have been successful in some cases. For example, in the Middle East and Eastern Europe, etc. We will not mention the names of the port, but the ship owners and operators who worked with us on these cases would be keenly aware on the issues encountered. For those ships and companies which require further assistance to improve safety standards and culture, we are willing to work with them to provide guidance and advice in turning the situation around. In fact, we are heartened to note that one of our ship managers who has worked with us to improve fleet performance has graciously offered to share their success journey at this forum. It will be useful to note what are the deficiencies which led to our ships being detained. In 2020, the top 6 categories of detainable deficiencies are shown on the left of this slide. These deficiencies are mainly related to ISM, fire safety, and life-saving appliances. In 2021, there is a change in the category of detainable deficiencies recorded. Although ISM-related deficiencies remain as the top deficiency, we noted that this has dropped to 14%, in contrast with 27% in 2020. The reduction may be a positive indication of ISM improvements within the SRS. Next, the second and third most detainable deficiencies were, however, overtaken by propulsion and machinery and certificates and documents. I do wish to inform that certain port states are carrying out focused inspection campaign on propulsion and machinery in the recent months to ascertain that foreign ships entering their ports do not suffer from propulsion machinery failure issues. This is due to a spike of accidents occurring within their waters due to propulsion machinery failures. Therefore, I urge all our ship owners and managers to take note of this trend and to ensure preventive maintenance of ships' propulsion machinery is carried out diligently in accordance with the manufacturer's recommendation to ensure safe operation of the ship. It should be noted that 2 new categories have been added, namely MLC-related and structural conditions. These detentions also raise some questions. For example, as the battle with the COVID-19 pandemic wages on, are some companies relaxing their responsibilities towards their key human assets, i.e., their crew on board? To help us understand better, a breakdown of the various categories of ISM-related deficiencies is shown in this slide. Ranking high on the chart is company responsibility and authority at 46%, followed by shipboard operations, 15%, and maintenance of the ship and equipment at 15%. During our meetings to discuss on ship detentions, it was brought to our attention that there could be certain gaps when exercising oversight on ships managed by some ship owners and managers during the COVID-19 pandemic. We therefore wish to provide some advice in overcoming these challenges. Many times, companies lamented that their shore superintendents and technical managers, etc., are unable to board ships for physical inspections due to COVID-19 situation. They are therefore unable to accurately assess the conditions of the ship under their management. We would advise that if regular shipboard inspections by shore management is not possible, ship owners and managers should explore alternatives such as verification of shipboard compliance via remote means, for example, through photographic of video evidence, live streaming, etc. It is also important to plan ahead for maintenance, taking into consideration possible delays due to travel restrictions of service providers and within the logistic chain affecting delivery of spare parts. For reasons above, do remember to strengthen shore support for ship crew to perform their duties. Finally, consider seriously to plan ahead for crew to be relieved to address performance issues due to fatigue as a result of prolonged service period on board. Next, I would like to share some thoughts on enhancing remote inspection capability on SRS ships. In light of the COVID-19 situation, certain benefits can be gained from conducting remote inspections, such as minimizing exposure of COVID-19 virus to inspectors and seafarers, thus safeguarding the health and safety for both parties. Allowing more frequent monitoring of ships, in addition to shipboard visits. And please note that we are not advocating for remote inspection to replace shipboard visits, but rather to complement shipboard visits. Reduce travel time or operational costs due to travel restrictions and stringent quarantine measures. In addition, as unveiled earlier during Minister's opening speech, ships with appropriate network capability and equipment can apply for the SRS notation, smart notation for remote inspection. More details of this will be published later on our MPA website. SRS operators are therefore encouraged to equip vessels with internet connectivity, example using Wi-Fi or 3 or 4G, as well as necessary software, hardware, such as applicable apps, Wi-Fi and mobile network repeaters, etc. It is also important to ensure that training of crew on remote inspection techniques are carried out so that they know what to do when undergoing a remote inspection. Resuming to the topic of detentions in Canada, as mentioned earlier, there's a rising trend in MLC-related detentions. Common deficiencies are on certificates and documentation, where the majority are related to Seafarers Employment Agreement, the SEA. We therefore urge that company closely monitors and ensures crew are employed and repatriated within the terms of the Seafarers Agreement, and their service on board should not exceed 11 months. This implies that any repatriation plan should be planned well in advance, taking into consideration possible delays due to the COVID-19 restrictions. Another deficiency would be the conditions of employment, mainly related to legal documentation on work and rest hours. Other deficiencies are related to poor conditions of sanitary facilities, inadequate quantity of provision, and deficiencies related to health protection, medical care, and social security. Consequently, we will be requiring the following measures to be complied with. Ensuring that SRS conduct a self-inspection prior to calling Canada and reporting back to MPA through our email shipping@mpa.gov.sg on the condition of the vessel. More importantly, in the event that there is potential non-compliance where the deficiency cannot be promptly rectified, the ship or company is to immediately consult its RO to determine the actions required and approach MPA as necessary. Throughout the years, The SRS has strived to maintain its status as a quality flag and discharge its responsibilities as a responsible flag administration. As shared earlier in my slides, our good performance in the various PSC regimes is not an event of coincidence, but rather a testimony to the dedicated efforts and work carried out behind the scenes by MPA Shipping Division. The list as shown in this slide is non-exhaustive. Our primary objectives would be to ensure ships in SRS are well maintained, safely operated, and comply with international and national maritime regulations. We would be constantly tracking the performance of Singapore ships and companies on a regular basis to seek out ships which may require our help. In addition, we also conduct desktop assessments to seek out ships which require our assistance, or ships which do not call in Singapore and which are then documented and processed for further recommendations. Separately, we are conducting flag state control inspections, including overseas and remote inspections, in addition to class surveys, for sampling of ships managed by ship owners and managers, and conducting focus audits. During overseas inspection, we will visit the local PSC authorities to touch base with them and initiate discussions on how we can improve the safety standards of ships calling to their ports, and also letting them know how we manage and maintain the safety standards of the SRS fleet. In addition to the above, we also carry out investigation into incidents and PSC detentions to promulgate lessons and improve the standard of safety on board Singapore ships. Equally important is our monitoring of the work of our ROs, whom we authorize to carry out survey and certifications on our behalf, and our service providers as well. We regularly engage our stakeholders through SRS e-bulletins, workshops, and dialogue sessions, typically twice a year or more, so that our stakeholders will be updated on the issues of the ship registry. It will be useful to note that we do assign a dedicated officer to work with companies, which is akin to a relationship manager as well. Company visits and engagement sessions, where necessary, can be arranged. For example, PSC detention and casualty investigation results may necessitate certain recommendations to be shared with the company for action and improvement. We do try to engage port states through different channels, such as regional PSC meetings, IMO meetings, detention review, and overseas inspections, as mentioned earlier. To ensure the safety of passengers on ferries, we also implement a ferry safety inspection regime to improve passenger safety. The list of work we do goes on. But I would like to end by sharing that despite all the above efforts put in by MPA, we will not be here without the support of all our stakeholders, including ship owners, managers, operators, seafarers, their unions, and recognized organizations, etc. As someone once told me, it takes minimally 2 hands to clap, and more hands to generate a chorus, and finally, a symphony. We cannot achieve much in isolation, and your cooperation and partnership is therefore important in our future journey to maintain the Singapore Registry of Ships as a flag of quality. I thank you.
Thank you, and a round of applause, please, for Mr. Chen Kit Jam for the presentation. And it's time now for a round of question and answer. May I invite you to come and take a seat with me as we wait for the questions to stream in slowly but surely, of course, via Pigeonhole. Thank you very much. Take a seat right now. Thank you for the presentation and sharing the scorecard with us. I hope you're all comfortable, and thank you for your kind consideration right there. Thank you. All right, it's time now to send in your questions. This is the last time that we're going to get you to do so, and you already know the drill. To my friends watching online virtually, of course, we have not forgotten you. Remember as well that we also would love to know that you're still with us, and I want to say you've been a great crowd, just being very engaged the last few hours. It's time to get your questions coming through. Are you ready for a few hard questions perhaps coming your way? We'll see how easy or how hard they are in just a few short moments. Okay, the first one's already come through. Thanks for the votes as well. If you do see some questions you'd like to be answered first, please vote for them. Thank you very much. Okay, the first question is about, does FSC still board ships physically for inspection, but in view of COVID-19?
Okay. My response is yes, we do still board ships for flag state control inspections, even during COVID-19. But I would just like to caveat that the frequency and the number of inspections have been curtailed accordingly due to the pandemic situation. But for cases that we deem important, critical for us to board the ships to gather more information or understanding of the ship's condition, or for example, a ship is really bad and has been earmarked. I won't use the word blacklist, earmarked by us for mandatory inspection. We will consider the risk and will board accordingly. But just to share, for most of the inspections we are currently doing is through remote inspections. Yeah. That's my answer.
So it's almost like a hybrid, a little bit.
Yeah,
above.
it's a hybrid, right?
Yes.
And it's on a needs basis and a risk-based basis as well. Yeah.
And I'm sure when the need arises, there is already a strong set of protocols to make sure that everything is very safe.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. So you know that when we do anything, it's always with due diligence. Thank you for answering that.
Thank you.
And this one is also a little bit following up to the COVID-19 situation. What are some of the challenges that you faced when conducting remote inspections? And then later on, maybe you can tell us how you can overcome them.
Okay. Just to share that remote inspection is something quite new to us as well. So we started doing remote inspection, I think, since July last year. But it's also because it is important to us to inspect ships that actually come into our port to ensure the safety of the port as well. And initially we are also like groping in the dark, in a sense. So, but then we do actually learn on the way. And in terms of issues that we encountered during remote inspection, I think on the surveyor's part, I think we don't have much of an issue because we have established the relevant procedures and so on. So the surveyors are pretty familiar with that. But the issues that we face are actually on board the ship. Yeah, because when we do remote inspections, we will need the crew on board to serve as our eyes. That means they'll be holding the mobile phone to actually go around the ship as we instructed them to do so.
Like a human drone.
Yeah, so they need to be familiar with the procedures as well. So initially there will be a lot of confusion, on instructions also. Then there's a language problem. So what we do to overcome this is, of course, the remote inspection is not done on the fly. It is actually being notified to the ship many days before. And we have also produced a guideline for the ship to actually follow. So it sort of smoothen the process. But still, I think there could be some kinks and sharp edges that we can actually smoothen out further.
So it's been about a year plus since you implemented this remote inspection. I'm pretty sure from just doing it, you'll find different ways to do it better the next round. Am I right?
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
So with crisis presents opportunities for us to be better, am I right?
Correct.
Absolutely. Thanks for answering that. And also as well, just a follow-up, do you feel that the postponement and delay of class and statutory surveys due to COVID-19 has led to noted increase or trends of propulsion and machine deficiencies?
Okay, can you repeat the question
Sure,
again?
I will. So do you feel like the postponement and delay of class and statutory surveys due to COVID-19 has led to noted increase or maybe a trend of propulsion and machine deficiencies?
Of propulsion and
Propulsions.
machine. Yes.
Okay.
I think that will be one of the causative reasons. Yeah, because as I shared earlier, due to the COVID-19 situation, the ship has still need to operate as well. So the machineries still need to operate properly, but they still need to undergo preventive maintenance as such. So if during the maintenance, certain spares or certain parts are on the verge of wearing out, and they need to be replaced. But however, because there are some delays in the logistic chain and so on and so forth, such spare parts could not arrive in time, and ship has been forced to continue to operate. And certain flags, they allow such practices to carry on. So because of that, there's also a probability that the parts may fail during voyage, and accidents may happen. Yeah, that's my take. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for your take on that. This one is asking for a copy of the self-inspection checklist before calling Canada. Where can we get a copy of the self-inspection checklist before calling Canada? I wonder if that's a question you'll be able to take on.
I just like to highlight that we don't have a specific checklist for ships calling Canada. I think it will be on the owners of the company to ensure that when the ship goes to Canada, the ship is prepared to be inspected, and it's also fit for the voyage. So it is on the responsibility of the company to come out with the checklist. But of course, MPA stands ready to assist on to assist them to review the checklist if they require us to do so. Because every company is not the same.
Yep.
Yeah, so they have their own specific procedures, they have their own specific culture and so on. So it will be, my suggestion is for the company to come up with their own checklist. And if they need advice or additional inputs, they can contact MPA.
Absolutely.
help them
I also
accordingly.
think that would be the way as well. Every company would have different supply chains and different,
correct.
HR communication as well. I'm sure with their own checklist, remember you can always run through with MPA just to double confirm, right? Everything's in order before proceeding. But thanks for thinking about that even. I think that's a sign and a very good trait of due diligence right there.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to our next question. Once again, if you're watching online, keep them coming through. You can, of course, send in via Pigeonhole, or to my friends on site with me, continue to send in your questions. The next question is, noting that detentions are down 50%, do you think that ship operators will become more complacent? And how can we prevent that?
Well, I think that's a good question. I think a lot depends on the ship owners as well. But I just want to highlight that although the detentions go down by 50%, it is an overall decrease. So certain companies who are not discharging their responsibilities responsibly are still subject to detentions as well. Because the reduction of 50% actually puts the ranking of the ship to a certain rank. So it has certain advantage when the ship goes into port because posture control have certain targeting metrics also. So the flag does have a certain impact. But other than that, there are other factors involved. So let's say if the ship has been involved in a certain incident, and it was reported to the Port State Control Authority. Then the Port State Control Authority has the right to actually board the ship, to inspect the ship as well. And if the ship is not maintained accordingly to the appropriate standards, international standards, the ship could still be detained. And therefore, I urge that, our ship owners, it's a wonderful job. We have all collectively bring up the standard of the Singapore flag, but do not be complacent. It's the same for us also. We are still going through and monitoring the fleet as well. So whenever we find that there's any cases where any companies where we feel that we need to leverage more or maybe press a little bit more, we will also contact them accordingly as well. Yeah, we will not let up our guards. Yeah.
For sure. And I think also from just the opening speech from SMS today as well, that our hubs are open. And of course, we do have very high up support as well. I think we're all gearing towards being more productive, collaborating with one another. So I hope that will motivate our ship owners as well to, of course, not be complacent about it and look forward to new exciting initiatives that were announced today to, of course, push forward for more.
If you ask me, I would actually aim for zero detention, 0%, but I think it's a very tough call. But looking forward to it, setting a higher standard will actually spur us to work harder to ensure that. And hopefully in the years to come, the detention ratio can reduce even
Absolutely.
lower. Yeah.
I think it's always a goal in life to shoot for the stars. Thank you. Okay, we have another question coming in. Thank you. This one is the last question, and it's from a very loyal SRS supporter. Thank you for 55 good years of support. We look forward to more. This one is, can MPA prepare detailed guidance to help owners ace CIC?
Detail in CIC. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. Oh. So yeah, I mean, it's not really that tough to do that. And usually in the past years, we also prepare guidance as well for the concentrated inspection campaign that is conducted by the postal control regimes. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. So, but for this year, we did not actually prepare it because the guidance will be very technical. Yeah, I think the difficult part is how to reduce the technical information to understandable instructions or guidelines for the ship's crew to understand. But if the companies have any issues, any questions, any queries, regarding the inspection, the CIC, I think it's still ongoing for 3 months. It's on ship stability. So ship stability is a pretty complex issue. So do come to us, and we stand ready to actually help to explain any doubts, etc. Yeah.
So with that, remember, you can always approach MPA, and I hope you ace your CIC. Thank you so much for the question. Any final questions? Just a quick check. I think with that, all good. And of course, Mr. Chen Kit Jam, do you have any final words to round up today as well? How has the whole day been for you?
I think it's great. I actually learned a lot about, from the other speakers as well, on the container fires, on decarb, and from Mr. Chen Ming-Huat. I like his last quote, which is very good. Do what you can, but leave the rest to God. Yeah.
Absolutely. I also love the quote that you also left with us. It takes two hands to clap, but more to have a chorus. And together we can make a symphony happen. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure having Mr. Chen Kit Jam with us. Could you please send him off with a round of applause? Thank you.
Thank you.